Hey guys, JB here with Code Fellowship. I just wanted to provide a quick disclaimer on this podcast episode. There is a possibility you'll hear some weird fringing with the audio. Sounds like I'm a robot or pretty shallow. It's not consistent throughout all of the recording. It pops up here and there, so I do want to apologize for that. It could have been like the bandwidth during the time of this podcast recording. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll see you guys around. Take care, and God bless. What is going on, guys? JB here with Code Fellowship, and I'm really excited for this episode. I'm excited for every episode, I think. It's just the type of energy I bring to the table. I have Clark Sell here. No, he's not here to sell me anything, guys. It's okay. It's just his last name. But I'm sure he's also a pretty good salesman.
Some days.
Some days. He's going to introduce himself. What does he do? And for those that might be reading the title, we're going to talk about that conference, and you'll find out why. But yeah, take it away, Clark.
Yeah, my name's Clark Sell. I husband, father of two teenagers, geek, nerd, whatever you want to, affiliate yourself with, own two companies, work too much, like to twist a wrench and work with my hands, live outside of Chicago. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, so I learned about you because I went to that conference. So you're the man with the plan, right? Trying to get all types of developers together for, is it 4 days, right? A total of 4 days.
4 days.
Technically.
Yep.
Yeah. I went to the one in the summer. I just recently got hired by Layer One, and they was like, "Hey, there's this conference we're going to. Are you able to make it? No pressure. I know you just got started, so like funds and stuff like that." It's like, yeah, I'll take a look. I'll talk to my wife. I really wanted to go because I found out that James Q Quick was going to have a session. And I was like, no way. I've been following for a while. So long story short, it happened. I took out a venture card for travel purposes. So that's like the business card. And then I was able to get everything in check, and I made it. And I'm glad I did. It was a really awesome experience. So let's talk about that conference. But before we do, there's a specific company that you own that kind of helps us get this moving, right?
Well, I own a company, that conference, so the event in itself is the same thing. I also own another company called Unspecified, which is, if you want to call it, my day job, or our tech company, consulting company, if you will. Mm-hmm. That conference came long before Unspecified did.
Gotcha.
So that conference started in 2010 out of my desire to bring, or my passion, if you will, to bring software developers together. And I liken it to the family reunion. We now do it in Wisconsin and in Texas and online. So 12 years in Wisconsin. Well, I guess this will be our 12th year in 2023, and it'll be our second year in Texas. So, it's a passion project, but it's something I'm passionate about, which has turned into, an event company, a SaaS platform, a, have to raise money machine, employees, things like that. So, but at the end of the day, it's a facility for us to help lift the community, and that's its main purpose.
Yeah, I really liked just the environment as a whole. It was very well organized. I come from a motorsports background, an automotive background, so I live in the Midwest, but long time ago, I was raised in New York City, so I'm used to like going to the Javits Center every year, having a media pass to the New York International Auto Show.
Yep.
And this was more organized than that.
Well, I mean, thank you for the kind words. I think our software skills help accomplish something like this. You know, when you build software, there's lots of moving pieces, there's lots of dependencies and order, and really an event is nothing more than that. The difference being you can't shift the time. So once you commit to something, the clock is ticking, and away it goes.
Right.
But I really do appreciate that, because there's only a few of us that work on it, and for the size that it is now, it is. I really think our sweet spot is that we have our own platform and system that helps us automate the dumb stuff and not have to focus on that, because the experience for me is the big thing, right? You're there to meet other people, you're there to learn, you're there to grow, and then I want you to be involved all year round. And coming physically together affords one thing, and being physically apart affords another thing, and the two shouldn't be not be able to attain both of those, right? You should.
Right.
It's our job to connect you to other folks. So
yeah, it did feel like a very knit tight kind of social platform for sure. And like every session that I went, I made a new friend, and through people that I already knew, or what it would seem like long-term relationships, because of we're probably going to see each other again at another DAC conference.
that's really the point. I tell people, when you go to an event, any event, it doesn't even have to be our thing. This is just human life. That it's a scary thing, right? And you said this was your first time, and that's even scarier, right? You don't know the halls and walls. You don't know the rhythm. You don't know the kind of the inner culture, if you will, of what it really means. And there's a lot of things that organically happen that I'm not even necessarily involved with. So, people's first kind of time, at that, they're there, they're kind of exploring, they don't really know what it means. If they come back a second time, they really kind of understand how to take advantage of it. And then a third, right, I like to say I've got you hooked for life. But the reality is, you walk into like a session, and whoever you're sitting next to, you already have something in common with them, right? You either care about the speaker, you care about the topic. You have, like, I've already opened the door for you to have somewhat of a conversation with them and say, hey, what brings you in? Like, are you working with this, or you're not working with this? And those touch points, it's my hope that you can lean on those and start to grow your network. And as our platform matures, right, our online platform, we hope to be able to do that better and better for you. So it's not just you having to push so many buttons, but we can also guide you and kind of make that more relevant all year round. So, people think conferences are about education. I would say they're about exposure. I'd say they're about your network. They're about how do you build a tribe so when you're in need, you can take advantage of it. And how do you kind of return the value to somebody else, or return the thanks? Because we all have something of value to give. And just because 100 people or however many people speak, that's just because there's only that many places to put somebody, right? If we could accept everybody, we'd say, cool, everybody can speak.
Right.
There's no reason to really, I guess there are some reasons, but there's really no reason to say no to anybody, right? The topic is, it's not necessarily for me to choose its importance, if you will. But, we take that kind of responsibility pretty serious. We want you to have a good time. We want it to be a safe place. We want your kids to enjoy it. We want to see your kids grow up and excel.
I really like that part. Obviously, my experience was like so last minute, so I couldn't bring my family. But I am gonna bring him this coming year in 2023 to Wisconsin Dells, and
cool.
hopefully the following year I actually go to January. So it'll probably be like an scapegoat for the family, right? My wife thinks that what I do is actually pretty darn cool, right? So
Oh,
she
that's cool.
likes that I network with people. Like I'm very extroverted. That I like I'm a musician as well. For a long time, so I play guitar and I've got around. I know a lot of people in the automotive industry, just you name it. And then my
Yeah.
wife, like she processes that. She looks at it. She's like, "Wow, this is really cool." Like just
Yeah.
being able to, just the I was gonna say it in Spanish, but the ease
Yeah.
of being able to network with someone doesn't come to everyone. But
No.
I think places like this, like conferences like this, that even though it's spectacularly big, right? If we look at it from a bird's eye
Yeah.
view, but it
Yep.
feels so knit tight when you go inside. It's very welcoming, very heartwarming.
Yeah.
And to add to that, you said, "Oh yeah, if we had the space, we'd give a session room to everyone." But you did have a really cool setup that I noticed in this, like the spaces, right? So
Open
it
spaces.
allowed the open
Yeah.
spaces. So even though they don't have their own session, it is a tiny session, right?
Yep.
It's a mini mastermind of hobby talks and conversations. I had a Steam Deck and I saw a guy. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna have an open space about Steam Deck if you guys want to check it out." My organization, they had an open space about iteration, and then right next to us was some guys talking about solar panels that they got on their house. It's like, you name it, you got it
Yeah.
all.
I think that the open spaces is kind of the secret sauce to everything that we do.
That's
And
the
it
Big
is,
Mac sauce.
yeah, yeah. And for those that don't really know what an open space is or the premise around it, when I think of the conference, or our time together, if you will, I think of behaviors.
Mm.
And I think about, how do you want to best use your time? And so one portion of that time usage is, you getting really deep into something. So, workshop, bang on keyboard, multiple hours, like really immerse yourself into, here's a topic that I would like to go from either 0 to 200 level or whatever, but I want to come away with having touched the keyboard and done something. I think about keynotes as, here's an opportunity to recenter people and re-energize, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got whatever, 1,000 people in a room, all staring at one person. That better be a damn good like hour of words that really hype people up. I think about sessions as exposure. It's, their eyes forward. There's a lot of people, or the density of people is pretty high. You're going to go to a lot of them, and it's kind of like the speed dating of technology. You're going to get a little bit, you're not going to be an expert. You may have known something. Maybe you got a question answered that was kind of, burning at you, or maybe you knew nothing about the topic and now you have like an idea in your toolbox. And then, the last piece of this is open spaces, and open spaces is the exact opposite. It's the unstructured, unplanned for conversation that has, that can go as long as it needs to go. It can go where it needs to go with whomever is there that decides that it's relevant, and everybody can kind of participate in its journey. And we took that spirit, and that's what we do on that.us, right? Our activities, I mean, we generically call them activities, but anybody can go put something out there today and join on anything. I often load up sessions for pair programming. We have an entrepreneur accountability group that meets every other week. Like the end is limitless. There's no, they're contextually aware. You pull yourself into a Zoom like room and you have a conversation like you and I are having now. And those, think of where the web was 10 years ago to where it is today. I can get 100 people in a gallery view across the globe and we can have a conversation. Like, how awesome of an opportunity to do that. And for me, that's leveraging the internet really, really well, right? That's not something we can do in person. Somebody from Sweden's not going to come to that conference. I would go, save your money. Like,
Right.
let's,
Right.
let's put one out there. Like, we don't need to come here. But you can go online, right? That the dollar for that is nothing. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
like you were saying about being able to provide an experience that doesn't really to paraphrase, it doesn't create a division, right?
yeah,
A divisive platform where, okay, well, I went to that conference, and we're all gonna know that when you go to an actual keynote or conference, it's gonna be a whole different experience, right?
yeah,
So, like,
yep.
I've watched Apple keynote for many years,
Oh
and
yeah,
still do, and I
yeah,
still haven't been able to go to one in person, but I know someday I will,
yeah,
right?
and they're
And
amazing.
the experience is different
Yeah,
compared to like what I've seen, when I see a lot of my YouTube friends and they make videos on it. And even then their videos doesn't compare, right,
no,
to the experience.
yep,
But you're creating with that conference this synergistic transition where, okay, here it is, right? You're watching virtually, then some are in person, but you're all having that same conversation with continuing spaces
yeah,
after the fact.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yeah. Anybody who's listening, I think the thing I try to tell folks is you got to invest in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of money, and most tech folks are pretty well off um, relative to other industries. But spending a few $100s, $1,000, whatever it is, that could mean the difference of a raise. It could mean the difference of a new job.
Yeah.
And I'm a little privileged in the sense that I get to hear a lot of these stories. So I know how when somebody, I always use the example of like going to the gym, right? You can have the weights in the basement. They don't do you any good if you don't go and lift them, right? You got to
Right.
show up and you got to do the work. You can go to a conference and you could sit on the sidelines and get nothing out of it. Or you could step out of your comfort zone or really get involved, and things just kind of get attracted to you, right? Conversations that you didn't know you wanted to have or got into happen. And I know people who've, like I said, got jobs. I know people who have gone from nothing and ended up at big tech conference or tech companies. I know people who have gotten major raises. I know people who have switched industries. You name it. Like, I've heard it. So
Yeah, that's and I'm assuming that is probably the best feeling in the world, is to be able to see those stories come across like your inbox and text messages and even in person. I saw how passionate you are about not that conference, but the people that come to that conference and make it all possible.
yeah, I mean, a
That
conference is
was
just
like
a
the pinnacle for
facility.
me when I went
Well,
there.
yeah, I appreciate that because it's not. It is nothing about the conference, right? It is all
Mm-hmm.
about the people. The conference is a facility. It is an excuse, if you will, to get people together for the reunion. Um, it gives you a finite time that you can plan on and a place that people can meet. But I spend so much of my time just trying to get people together. Um, that's the that's where the gold is, right?
Yeah.
It's in the relationships, it's in the network, and it takes all pieces, right? It takes me as an organizer, it takes the sponsors as a supporter, it takes the speakers as a giver, it takes the attendees as the receiver and giver, right? None of it works without any one of those pieces, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The wheel cannot keep on turning if those lug nuts are not secured.
Yes. Now you can lose one, but
Yeah. Yeah. But
I
I
laugh because
I laugh too. Yeah.
I have a 68 Camaro that I wrench on and
Ooh,
drive, and
very nice.
I did lose the lug nuts of
No
all
way.
four of the five, and the fifth was not on well. Um,
Mm,
so
but you made it
old,
home.
old car problem. No, I made it to a tow truck.
Oh, okay, good. So you took the decision to stop.
That's right.
That's
There's
good. That's
sometimes
good.
there's always a point in time in your life where you need to call for help. This is
Yes.
not like I did not have the tools to bring it home.
Yeah. And that's a really good thought there. It's like something that we can learn from is like from that is like not all not everything that we do like as full stack developers or just like specified like niche down maybe back end or front end. We don't have to know every front end technology or we don't have to know every back end
Nope.
technology. We can try to learn it, right, and try to implement it, but we don't have to stay stuck trying to learn it and burning ourselves out. Like we can reach out when we need that help.
Yeah.
and
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 you
then you
should
could be
reach
like,
out.
exactly right. It's encouraged, right? Um, and but just being able to like, okay, you go to like something like that conference or any type of conference, right? That allows you to connect with people. You call somebody from like the other side of the world. You know they're awake. You're like, hey man, I need help with
Yep.
this,
Yep.
right? Because I have something due for my job like tomorrow morning,
Yep.
right? And just that communication will only happen because you've made a connection somewhere prior and you've nourished that relationship.
Yep. And and you really touched on what I'm trying to do with that.us, which is really facilitate an organic conversation that is necessary at the time that you need it and contextually aware, where you can have this kind of authentic video slash screen share slash, hey, I've got my hand up. Can somebody look at this? Because this is the things that I have to do, but it's not working the way I thought or envisioned. Can somebody I just need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can take that in all kinds of ways, right? It can be design, it can be mental health, whatever. All the different facets work. How to get a raise, how to review a resume. And, people will say, oh, well, you can ask a question on Stack Overflow. Great. If I ask a question on Stack Overflow, it'll probably be 12 pages long because there's so much context of the thing that I'm trying to do and all the examples. And then I got to give you like the 3 or 4 different ways that I've already tried to get to here. Cause you're going to tell me you just need to do this. And you're going to go, yeah, I thought that too. And yet it doesn't work. So thanks for your quick answer, but that's not.
And then at some point, it's like, what version are you using?
Right. Right.
Why didn't
Right.
you ask that from the beginning?
Right. And so I'm just a big believer in the authenticity. I think video forces you to be a better person, right? And I know people shy away from it, but I think when you can see one another, you can have that acoustic space. You can play off of one another.
Yeah.
Tech is hard. It's forever changing. I think that's kind of nice, right? Because it doesn't get stale by any stretch. And you can move around. Like you said, like you don't try to know it all. Like that's the worst.
Yeah.
But
The most
enjoy it.
important part is feeling confident that what you're trying to present or what you know. And sometimes even feeling confident at something you learned 24 hours ago can come off as, I'm a subject matter expert for that moment. And then after that, you just continue studying and you continue building and you continue learning.
Yeah. And on the flip side, man, if you don't know something, just say it.
Exactly. Be confident in that too. Humble.
Right.
In
It is
answer.
okay not to be an expert. It is listen first, give second. And I'm in another tribe for entrepreneurs. And one of our tenets is, you're not allowed to solve somebody else's problem. You at no time can you try to solve somebody's problem. You can offer your experiences. You can say, if you were, I don't know, you were trying to design an architecture for some website. It's completely arbitrary. And you could say, well, when I built that.us, we went down it this way for these reasons, right? And then you, JB, you get to go, oh, cool. And you can kind of pick off the different pieces of like, I kind of like that idea and I've kind of liked that idea, because the context, it's your context, right? It's your story. Me giving you your story, it could be the right answer, right? But probably not, because your story started after mine. So guaranteed something else started after. And I think it's a good life thing to just say, you know, I don't have all the answers. I can share some of my experiences that I think are relevant. And of course, in programming at times, you can go, no, you need a semicolon. Like, that's the answer, right? That's a little different, but
slap in hand. Here you go.
right. Upgrade, npm install,
latest.
right. Did you check this? But you know, I think tech can start to get a little toxic when everybody's just vomiting things as if their respective thing is right.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Like that's
Twitter.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yes.
So basically, trying to get the exposure right, a little too dark. I have a fellow developer friend. He's becoming a good friend. We're networking more and more. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he's in Iowa, and he was like, the other day he wrote, like last week he wrote a blog post about how he's trying to just detox, right, from like tech Twitter, because he saw how toxic it's becoming.
Oh, it's terrible.
And it's so interesting because I don't see that toxicity, because I guess it's just the Pacific people that I follow and how it's feeding it, and I'm very good about that stuff.
Yep.
And then I do want to stay on Twitter, so I'm gonna be good about it. I don't care about Facebook anymore. There's nothing there for me. And then he wrote this really deep blog post specifically touching upon that, and I started seeing what he was talking about more and more as I started seeing he was getting replied back. And like he said in his post, it's like people, developers on Twitter, they, for some reason, a truth is so objective to them, like instead of being subjective and being able to build upon it, right? But they tell you, oh no, this is the way you're supposed to do it.
Well, and a lot of people not only tell you that in this passive aggressive way, but they'll also tell you how dumb you are because you didn't do it that way, which is also unhelpful, right? Like, thanks for belittling me and having no idea who I am. Great, right. You didn't even put a profile picture up because you're hiding behind whatever freaking avatar because of whatever. And that stuff drives me nuts because that's just not the real world. Like, I don't want to be around it's like that. I want to be around people who want to lift one another up, not sit there and throw stones at each other and not be held accountable. So I followed the indie hacker community. So a lot of people like bootstrapping.
Oh yeah. A lot of good friends that I've made there, and it's so funny because again, like my feed is different compared to my other friend. I'm gonna shout him out, Josh Manders, Nifty Co. God bless you, bro. Like I'm glad that you didn't leave full Twitter, but that you're around and sticking around and giving knowledge and wisdom where it needs to be.
Yeah. I don't think it's just a detox. Like, I think it's a behavioral change that we all have to do, and you have to be all right with like unfollowing people and exploring and saying, I don't need you. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
And that's really hard today when the world is so bipolar. Everybody's all over Elon and all this. I don't care. Like, if he makes it a better, like, Twitter is kind of a dumpster fire, right? Like, it's not great. It's never been great. It's not a public service. It's not a town hall. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if he wants to charge $8, I think it's hilarious that developers get so angry and you're like, don't you make software? How
Yeah.
do you give it away for free?
Right.
Like, what? Like,
Don't you
how
have a
did you,
free option at least so people
right?
can
Like,
try it? You
right?
don't have to
Like,
pay the $8.
I will pay $20 if it gets ads and features start rolling that are like,
Mm-hmm.
then I, it's hilarious to me. And
Yeah.
it's a big corporate company. Like, it
It's like,
could
what
burn
do
to
you
the ground
expect?
tomorrow. Like,
Right.
who cares?
What do you expect from that? What do you
Right.
expect from that? But what you can make the best out of a platform is the connections that you make
Yep.
and the impact that you've made in someone else's. May not be uh John Doe is pissed off at Elon, right?
Yep.
On Twitter, but it could be like you know, Kevin Joe, you know, just got a raise because of something you provided
That's
as
right.
content and
Yep.
shared at the right time,
Yep.
right?
And I think you just said it. Like, it's at the right time. There are times where people, you know, need the hello or need the puppy dog or whatnot
Mhm.
to just get through today, because you don't know what's going on, or going not going on, but you don't know what they're going through.
Mhm.
And a little kindness can
A
go a
long
long
way.
way.
Yeah.
We should all be
It's
a little bit more mindful of this. Tech is the new industry. It's not the original.
yeah.
Far more trades have been going on for a very long time that are well more established than this little world of banging on a keyboard.
Yeah, if it feels the same coming from the military background. Um they used to tell us when we would get like the briefing for the weekend, you know, just don't do anything stupid. If you need a DD, make sure you call somebody. You have a domestic dispute, make sure you leave the house, talk to your leadership so they can place you in like a barracks room in isolation, stuff like that, or whatever it is, right? Like there's
Yep.
many different things, many different ways of diffusing any negative or malice of the
Yep.
that can come out of freedom. You know,
Right.
because it freedom is not free. Something I've learned in the military, um, and we don't really get much freedom when we're in, right. We have to make the best of it, and a lot of it is that human connection, the people
Yep.
that you meet, the people you bond with,
Yep.
and there's a lot of people, they may not like you, and then some things you may not like about them, right? But at the end of the day, it's the core purpose that brings you together,
Yep.
and it's just
It's
trying to
common
get
goal.
through the day.
Yep.
Yeah, it's trying to
Yep.
get through the day, through the week, so that the when it comes to like the briefings that they give us, they tell us, you know, to call somebody, right? Just call somebody and let them know. If you see them throughout the week, they've been struggling and they've been doing things wrong and things have been working out, give them a call and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, battle, you all right?"
Yep.
Because that call could be a minute away from either their suicide because
Yep.
I've been a witness of it and heard of it, um, or it could be a minute away from them like making a bad decision that has nothing to do with suicide, but it could be
Yep.
like them committing adultery or a DUI,
Yep.
whatever it
Yep.
is, right?
Yep.
So I know this conversation got super deep, but
No, but you know what?
it goes hand in hand,
It
right?
does go hand in hand, and it's exactly the same thing that I've experienced in my career of software development. The 6, 8, 10 folks who are banging away on a project, trying to get it out the door against all odds and shitty timelines, away from their family, all the kinds of things that shouldn't have happened. But somehow, on every release of a thing, especially greenfield type stuff, you get this tribe that comes out and rallies to make sure that you get it through. And I've got some of the best friends as a result of that over the 20 years that I've been doing this. And I, I go through my phone every week. I don't quite do it every day, but I go through and I send a text message out to somebody to say, "Hey, brother, like, I just hope you're having a great day. I'll give $5 away to go get a cup of coffee. Like, hey, go get yourself, I don't even know where in the world you are right now, but here's a cup of coffee. Wish I could be with you. Go have some fun.
Oh, and here's $8 so you get a blue check mark, by the way, too. Good segue.
Here's your check. Somebody said something on I don't know where it was, that Elon could have given, there's 7 billion people in the world, and he could have given
hear that.
Everybody $1 billion, and he'd still have all this money left. And I was like, well,
but that's not how philanthropy works.
right And it wouldn't be $1 billion after taxes. There'd be a whole nother problem there. But
right, and look at the lottery, the Powerball. Somebody in California won it.
I tried so hard.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about the conference, right? It's not the conference. It's what the people have built as the community. It's what it affords when people get together. It's what it's seeing kids grow up. It's finally meeting somebody's spouse, right? And not just hearing about them.
Yeah.
And I just, I will kill myself to get to the event. And after the event, I am recharged like nobody's business. And I'm fired up because, you got the kind of hug that you needed, if you will. And, and I just, I can't press enough for folks that they just need to find their tribes, right? Whether that's your church, whether that's your sporting team, your family, your set of geeks over here and over there. Like, you need to fuel yourself with people who are, will lift you up. And we're in a really interesting time as we kind of come out of this pandemic, where there are people who are still scared to be outside. And there is some special sauce to being together in a group of people. The conversations are way more authentic. They're way more genuine. They're way more present, if you will. I hope it stays that way. I mean, excuse me, I don't know that it will, but it's nice.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the physical context of communication. And if we can't have it like in the flesh, then the closest thing is going to be through a video feed. And I think that's one of the blessings of technology, right? Everything that we have ever created as man, there's a good attribute and there's an evil attribute to it. And like, you're not going to stop evil from trying to do evil, right? But what you could do is make a difference in the world, starting with your household, then the community, and so it always starts around you, right? As a Christian, like, and something I've learned is that, you don't have to be a pastor, right? Like, if God didn't call you or ordain you as a pastor to lead a flock, like a church congregation, you're already some type of minister, a disciple of his gospel. If I'm evangelizing to you, Clark, or my coworkers, that right there in of itself, and then that relationship you build, and let's say 10 years along the road, and then you finally gave your life to Jesus, like, if you look at it, you're like, wow, I've been pastoring that person for a while. So in a way, you already doing what the Lord has commissioned you to do, and it's to go out there and make disciples, and spread the good news. But as well as like you said, that just finding those niches of people that can relate to what you do on a daily basis, right? Like my wife and I, we had conversations around it's good to like be with our closest friends or just be around certain people, just to kind of give a break to the daily grind of husband, wife, kids, right? but then you in your head, you're like, I wonder how the kids are doing with grandma and grandpa. Right. So, but that's just a part of being a human being, right? We either need affirmation, we have vanity metrics we need to feed.
Yep.
It's a dopamine, it's like pleasure, but there's a way we can like have a healthy version of all these things.
Yep.
Right. And it's being humble, knowing when you need help, knowing when you need to actually have a connection with someone and reach out for resources. You broke, can't make it to the conference, tell somebody. Right.
Yeah, sponsor.
And right.
Yep.
And it's the same way. Like you need somewhere to stay. Tell your local church, your pastor, or your deacon, hey, times are tough and they're gonna kick us out, and they'll find a way. Right? It's no different. It's definitely no different.
I want to go back to something you said earlier, which I think is important. I'm going to change the context of it a little bit, but when you see something, right, and then you can't unsee it. So, let's say you're shopping for a car, and I forget the example you used. It was about the toxicity on Twitter. Yeah. But let's use the car example because everybody's done it. Oh, you're looking for a car. You're like, oh, I'm gonna get this Honda. And next thing you realize there's like every other car's a Honda, and you're like, damn it! And I thought this was like the most unique thing ever, and it's like everybody drives an Accord. But I think, and I'm just gonna say, tech folks in general, like, I think once you start to look other places, right, you give yourself permission to look other places, you start to see that it's all not maybe what you saw, right? There's a lot of people who are like, hey, tech is this. And it's like, no, that's how you've let tech define it. I have worked with women at all levels and pay grades and this and that. I have worked with Black people and Indian people and Mexican people and all that. I haven't had those experiences because I never went that way, for whatever that means. And I think you just have to give yourself permission that there is either, and I don't want to make this good and evil, but good in the world, and there are good in your industry. And, if you don't like what you see, unfollow it, right? Yeah, because you're letting the algorithm, go through. And there was one point where I went through and I unfollowed everybody on Twitter. Me and my kid, we sat down on the floor, and we were, with the fingers, like, because you can't bulk unfollow anybody. I was like, let's see how fast we can unfollow 2,000 people. And then start over, right? Yeah. There's you have permission to change, to be somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. And just reset that palette, context switch. I mean, it's something like this week, yesterday, I felt like, I don't know, I just felt burnt out, right? I felt burnt out, and probably because we were just trying to launch this specific client today and this week, and we successfully did it as of the time of this recording. There's some other things to work out, but that we wouldn't have a job if there ain't nothing else to work out.
Amen to that.
But I just felt like, wow, like this is what it feels like, the burnout in like the coding industry. Like this is what it feels like. I mean, I'm trying to help my wife, trying to be a better father, be a better husband. I'm trying to be more present. I'm also trying to allow my wife, she was not feeling good, so I'm like taking more responsibility with the baby at night, stuff like that, and just going. I suffer from sleep apnea and PTSD, and you name it, right?
You and me,
all those
brother.
Different things, right?
Yeah,
Insomnia,
nothing like being hooked up to life support.
I stayed awake from like 3 a.m, right? But I still go to my job that I've had since June. And I don't consider it a job. It's something I love to do. It's a passion, and I'm learning how to do a lot of things in different ways. But I still go. I do the grind, and I make a mistake. I learn from the mistake. But yesterday, I actually took the time to I need to do some self-care.
Yep.
Right. I prayed. I took a power nap, and I woke up at the right time. At the right time, I watched James Q Quick, his live stream. We talked a little bit about Astro's meta framework, and then that was enough to keep me fueled, and I was able to finish all the stuff I needed to do yesterday. Yeah. But it's just taking that time to take care of yourself is very important as a developer, truly, and anybody, right? But specifically because of the developer focused podcast,
Yeah.
take that break.
And I, you know, as two dudes on this podcast at the moment, you know, I would stress to the dudes listening, we're not real good about taking care of ourselves, right? There, you don't hear the dudes going to one another like, hey man, you should really go home and like sleep for 12 hours. Like, when's the last time somebody told you that? Your wife. But you know, there's not like a, maybe you should like chill out, let's sugar detox, maybe get some sleep, you know, lay off the Red Bull. I think if you want to be at your best, like you have to address all sides of that that coin.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is because it's like we're naturally integrated into like this hustle culture, but hustle culture is not necessarily super healthy.
No,
right?
not at all.
Unless you want to eat ramen for the rest of your life, at least packets of ramen. But there's a time and place, right? There's a time in the season where it's done, the sacrifice is made, and boom, you know, you got your dream job, and now you can live freely a little bit, you know, more. You don't feel this weight. And it's like something my wife and I, we reflect on, just kind of the hard work has paid off and years in the making. And I finally made it to my dream job. But again, like I attribute a lot of it to my faith, right, in God and how he has helped me. And then some people, they may attribute it to like their hard work. Right. But at the end of the day, from a neutral perspective, it's just coming to that realization that it's okay to take a break.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
patience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have some patience.
Give grace to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? This didn't work out. You know, go play video games, go eat food, go watch a movie, come back to it tomorrow. Because if you're just there like a total of 24 hours trying to fix the same bug, you're not going to come up with a good solution.
No. Yeah. And the irony of that is if you walk away and come back to it, you're probably fixing it in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's like on Twitter. We're going back to Twitter. I read this guy who's like, isn't it funny? It's like, you're like working 12 hours at your job trying to fix this one problem. You go to bed, you figure it out in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's always, God, that's always the case.
That's always the case. Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation, just literally where it goes. This is why I love conversational podcasts, right? Because you never know what's going to bring.
Yep.
And I think it's going to serve of a value, right? Something that I've learned from you is that you've worked in many different aspects of the tech industries, even like with like the biggest names in tech. And
yep.
And you present yourself in such a way that is completely different than what most people would think of like as of a senior developer, right?
Wow. I appreciate that.
Those guys that are super egotistic, right? And they always look for something in return when they give something. But you have taken the time to really give to us, right? The little guys, and you flourish because of that, right? So in return, you see the reward is in the people, not, like you said, the conference, right?
Yeah.
Because a conference can't be a conference without the people, right?
That's right. Yep. And I can't tell you how many speakers I've told. I've you know, there's ugly sides to running an event, and I've been told many times about how I would be nothing without said speaker, and I've had to remind them that they would also be nothing without an audience, right? Like people have to show up and listen, right? Nobody's granted any of these gifts, right? It takes everybody together to do it, and there's a lot of people who are just as qualified who aren't up there only because it just didn't work out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're almost to the top of the hour, but I wanted to give this time. It's called the passing of the bread, and the passing of the bread is basically just sharing something that you would like. Could be an encouragement, it could be a movie, a book, It could be resources for developers, or even those that are not developers yet, but they're trying to career change, which is, I've noticed, is the biggest thing that's going on, a career shift.
Yeah.
Um, and they're either doing it to work at tech companies or the biggest tech companies, or build their business, right, out of this transition. So is there any breadcrumb you would like to share? You could even do shameless plugs.
Yeah, I will. I'll leave two. The first one will be for the family man, the family woman. You got your kids. You mentioned you got a young one.
Yeah, I have 3 kids. No.
I've got 2 teenagers. I was told early on, and I'm not going to get into the backstory about it, but I was told early on, and I try not to give advice to new parents at all. But I was told this: you can do things one time and one time only, and you can do things one time, anytime. Choose your times appropriately. And it's always been in the back of my head, especially when we have delivery dates and there's whatnot. Like, your first kid is only ever going to have their first concert or choir or band thing or communion, right? Like, those things, they happen once. You don't get them back. And work isn't always the priority at that time. So think about the one time only, and the one time anytime. And I
take that as very heartfelt, and it's really inspiring.
I
really appreciate that.
I can share the deeper story someday, and that
could be another episode.
Yes, it could be. The second one, and this came up. It came up yesterday, and it was a little bit about self-care, but my kid was 3 at the time, and it was 7 or 8 months into a project, and I had worked 2,700 hours. I had billed 2,700 hours. So those who are on the management side of things and don't know, like, typically there's 2,200 hours in a year, or 2,200 working hours. If you're a consultant, somewhere around 1,800, 1,700 is really what you're trying to shoot for by the time you subtract vacation and all that kind of stuff. So 2,700 in, sub 8 months. And my 3-year-old at the time said, "Daddy, why don't you love me anymore? Like, you won't come home and see us." And it broke me. But I had made that decision. I didn't realize it at the time, right? It was the wrong decision. Looking back, it was the wrong decision. But I also changed who I was at that point. I stopped putting in those many hours. I went, got a different job at said big company. I put family first. I did things different because I chose to do them different. And I say that because I think we all, especially today, you have a choice, whether it's working out, whether it's reflecting on oneself, whether it's meditation, depression, getting help, getting involved, finding your tribe. Sit down, especially the dudes, because we're not good at it. Sit down and reflect a little bit, and make sure, like we said earlier, make sure you give yourself some time, make sure it works, that you're in a good place. Because I think that will help you in your career, in your relationship, in your life, live something that you will not look back on and regret. So take a little you time and know which times you should be at. Those are my 2. Little deep, but I think, at the end of the day, you can go figure out what tool you want, and, whatever. You don't need any of that.
There's something that's something that, with the passing of the bread, I've never really fixed it to. Like, I aspire to be like Syntax.fm is one of my favorite podcasts, and compressed.fm by
Yep.
James Q. Quick and Amy Dutton. Like those are two podcasts like I try to simulate and format and see what works and what doesn't work. But passing a bread, I felt like I shouldn't fix it, to just like, oh, what tooling? It's like, because we all gonna figure out, and if we share it, we're not even gonna go to it, right? It's just like, it's been mentioned, it's there for you to check it out whenever. But valuable, priceless, the life lessons like that, especially from someone very experienced, is very valuable. It's for those that are juniors that are coming through, maybe listening to this, or even those that are transitioning, right? Because they also go through that phase of like putting everything to the side so that they can make this happen.
Yep.
And sometimes you just can't force, like my wife says, never force the hand of God, because you're not going to be ready for what's to come after that. Right?
Have you ever listened to Lewis Howes?
Lewis Howes, never heard of the name.
All right. So I think he still does. At the end of his podcast, he says, or asked the question, you're wiped off the face of the planet tomorrow. Everything's gone. There's no memoirs. There's no books. There's nothing. Like, what would be one thing? Like, I think it's what are the three things you would want to leave behind, for the next person, behind. So same spirit.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's getting dark over here.
Yeah, I know. I keep trying to adjust mine.
I have an ND filter, so obviously my lights are like bursting. I'm sweating.
I never thought about putting an ND filter on.
Yeah, so you put
Yeah.
lights, right, to a certain capacity, and then just put an ND filter, and then just control that exposure.
Yeah.
So that way, if you have lights, they don't look too harsh. But
no, I like that method. I don't know why I never did that. I have one. My problem is my screens.
I have a super ultra wide.
So do I. Mine's a 49. I have a 49.
49 Samsung,
and then a vertical 35.
Oh wow.
And it's the 35. If I go put something white over here, you'll see that
that's perfect. Yeah.
Now it looks like I have this really bright key light. Like, bam.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having multiple monitors. I've learned before I even could afford some of this stuff over time. Yeah, it's like the things the more you know, right?
Yeah, the more you know, the more you spend.
You heard it here, folks, right?
I mean,
don't know more, so you don't spend more.
Yep. I mean, you're not going to build your own camera, so you might as well buy it.
Right. That's more effort.
Yes, it's doable. I've seen it on Twitter, but I don't think you want to.
And they're gonna tell you this is the way it's done.
That's right. Yes, you need this micro sensor on an Arduino that needs 12 batteries.
Yeah. Well, awesome. This has been a super awesome conversation. I don't know where this podcast is gonna go, but it's going somewhere. And
Keep on, brother.
I really love the conversations I've had. They're all so different, right? But they all touch on something that seems like the developer community needs to know and could also resonate with like Christian developers, right? So I am blessed by your acceptance to my invitation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked that it happened. Anytime, let me know when it's out so we can bring all kinds of love to it. And
for sure.
Thanks for having me on. Keep on with it. I'm getting ready to get back into my own podcasting journey if everything goes right. And this time I'm doing it way different. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens over the next month. Cause I ended up first podcast. I ended up fizzling out around 60 episodes. I think the second one I fizzled out. It's probably pretty close to 100. I was doing, I don't know, 3 to 5 a week. But
yeah, I've had my share of breaks and hiatuses and stuff like that. And you and we actually talked right after. You reached out to me right after like that conference, and then the baby was born. And look, it's November, and and you were still able to like tell me, hey, yeah, the calendar is still valid. So I
Oh,
went
yeah.
and I was like, cool. All right. But
So I'll tell you this, you know, any of my, you know, friends that are doing podcasts, whatnot, you have an open stage at TC to come, use our production gear, use the stage. That's when I say open stage, I mean the stage.
yeah,
You can live stream it there. We can get you plugged in with folks. Like
cool.
Quick is actually keynoting in
Yeah,
Texas.
in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's going to bring his podcast there, and they're going to do it live there. Another person's Taylor Dessen's going to do his there. Like I'm already in the money, right, for the stage. I'm already in the gear and the cameras and all that. So like, let's use it. Like give yourself, use the audience that's there to, you know, be on your show and let us help lift it. So
Cool. Yeah.
if you come in August, you know, or I guess it's not
July.
Yeah. Used to be August.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I heard too. Yeah. I think July's a sweet spot.
We had to move it up because it was starting to. If you look out on the calendar, it starts getting into the school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, when the pandemic hit, I was like, "Hey, can we move up a week?" They were like, "Yeah, that other convention died." I was like, "Okay, great. I'll move up a week."
That's fun. That's funny.
I mean, you get slid into your time, and you can't do anything. You can't move it. You're like shackled to it. So the pandemic was a blessing and a curse in many ways. That we got to make some changes, try some new things, lose a bunch of money.
You learn to adapt.
Yes.
I guess before we go, just want to talk a little bit about maybe you could talk a little bit about that conference that's happening in January. Where can people go if they want to attend virtually or in person? Are tickets still available?
Tickets are available. Go to thatconference.com. It'll have both the Texas and Wisconsin event. They're always listed there. Texas is January 15th to the 18th. Wisconsin will be the 24th to the 28th, I think.
Yeah, it's like the last week of July or something.
It's the last full week of July. The call for speakers for Wisconsin opens January 1st. So anybody who wants to throw their name in the hat,
people can still. Okay, cool.
You can submit then. That'll be open for a couple of months, and then you know, we'll go through the selection process and whatnot, and it'll get released in April. But yeah, like tell your friends. The best, you know, people ask how I can help me, and the best help you can do is point us to sponsors and tell people about that conference. Like that's we don't have a marketing team. I'm the marketing team. I'm the janitor. I'm the editor. I'm one of the programmers. I'm the owner. The cooker.
Yeah, the
little
Army knife. Yeah.
So yeah, tell your friends. I mean, everybody thinks everybody knows the other thing, but you know, a simple nudge, a simple "Hey, did you know about this?" is greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
so.
And at the end of the day, we are the marketers, right? Because we talk about our experience and we share it in real time.
Yep. I mean, all of our growth has happened really organically. Yeah. So, and if you don't like it, I want to know too. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Yeah. And don't tell anybody you don't like it. Just tell me.
Come on in. You can come on in, enjoy the food, and not like the conference.
Right on.
Yeah, right.
The water park is still wet, whether you like it or not.
That's right. It still flows water down the side.
That's right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this episode has been a blessing to you as much as been to me, and I'm sure to Clark. It's always a great time to have an open platform for different types of conversations. And again, this is a Christ-centered developer podcast, but if you're a non-secular and you have some wisdom to share when it comes to like tech stuff, more than welcome to reach out to me. And this platform is also open for you. Just know that I will be evangelizing to you. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I want to have all kinds of people to really come and just talk about their experiences and like their career changes. You can follow us on Twitter. We're all over the different podcasts. And I've noticed the traction's been going up on Spotify. So if you use Spotify, keep on sending that love via video or audio. And then we're on YouTube. So all the links will be down in the video description or show notes. And this has been Code Fellowship, where purpose meets function. And we're signing out. Take care and God bless.